All right, so now let's talk about the mental model of an SoC, like how you can reason about um, any SoC for that matter. And this is more of a design pattern in the SoC world, in the hardware design world, very common. And obviously, deviations from this is allowed. But if you start off reasoning this way about an SoC, you will be in most cases right, 99% of the cases right. Okay, so what is that? So we have to think about the fact that there is a system bus. Now I'm calling it a system bus, but more formally you can just call it a network. But network is also a wrong word, so let me just call it interconnect. Or in certain cases, this is also referred to as the fabric, right? But let's just call it interconnect. So interconnect is, one very important entity, and the speed at which the interconnect can operate is pretty much the speed at which your SoC can operate. Because if data and control signals are being moved around, um, then how fast the data can move around depends on interconnect. So there is this central entity like interconnect. Well, central entity called interconnect, which is like high-speed road or railway network. So think about that as an analogy. So now what we have is we will have different subsystems. So subsystems are a complete entities in themselves. Now complete in what sense? We'll take a look. So let's draw like multiple entities here, multiple subsystems. So we have these, and now the subsystems connect to the interconnect. And through what? Through buses. And well, an arrow like this with a slash on it simply means it is a bus, and a bus is nothing but many wires. So one wire is a single wire, but multiple wires are referred to as a bus. So we have the subsystem connecting to the interconnect via something called the bus or buses. There can be multiple buses also, control bus, data bus, instruction bus, address bus, whatnot, many different kinds of buses. But the idea is that it connects to the subsystems. Okay, let me just very poorly draw these. I should mention at this point that there need not be one interconnect, and designers take the liberty of designing whichever way they want. The point is that the requirements be met, power, size, performance, those requirements typically. So we might actually have another interconnect which connects to the main interconnect, and then that connects to subsystems. Now this is the central idea. Interconnect, subsystems connected to that through buses, right? Okay, if you have accepted this so far, then I'm going to propose another idea, another key idea, and then we'll take that key idea and stitch it back into this notion of an interconnect and everything, connecting to that interconnect. Okay, so what is that idea? So, and that idea is central to the way embedded system programming is done. And when I say embedded system programming, well, it means programming the hardware, the way the contract between the hardware designers and the software folks. This is one of those abstractions. So what is it? It's called the memory mapped IO, memory mapped input output. So what that effectively means is, and this is the key idea, so it means that we have different subsystems here, and let me just number them 1, 2, 3, 4. Like their internals is not as much important right now, but the idea is that each of these subsystems get an address range. So for example, hex AA 40s to I don't know, XB 40s, so 30s, then XC. Now again, these are just placeholder addresses. Actual addresses are, spaced apart. They are in certain address window and all of that. But nonetheless, and this need not be like D, it can be E also. They don't have to have like the same size, same spread. But the idea is there is an address range provided to these. Now, what is an address range and why is it provided? The central point is that memory is something we are used to thinking as locations where data can be stored. So what we have then done is our CPU, in general, our CPU is capable of sending addresses towards the memory, and the memory, depending on this address, will look at certain cells, the addressed cell, and then pass the content of that on some bus, data bus, instruction bus, whatever. But the way we interact with the memory is we pass it an address, we convey our intention, whether we want to read or write, and then we fetch or save data. That is how the conventional CPUs or systems work. We're talking about 1970s, 1980s, that kind. So now what we're saying is, between the memory, the addresses won't go to the memory directly. What we are saying is that given a CPU, the address will go to the interconnect. Let me just call it IC for short. And this interconnect then can connect to a block, right? Some block, some subsystem. So effectively now the address is being given to the interconnect. What the interconnect can do is, depending on what that address is, it can route to a subsystem, or it can route to, well, another subsystem, which let's say happens to be the memory. So the key here so far is we've got an interconnect, and to the interconnect, everyone can, well, not everyone, but CPU, for example, in this case, the compute cores, the processing elements, they can submit an address, and they can also submit an intention, whether the core or the CPU in this case wants to read, write, what does it want to do? It can convey the intention, and this interconnect now is the one which looks at that address and decides which one of these subsystems needs to be activated and submitted that address to. So this is the key. So every subsystem, and memory becomes one of the subsystem. And this is interesting, not all address has to belong to the memory. Memory can be tiny. Let's say if the memory is 1 KB, we are talking about 1024 addresses to address each byte. But then if your system is capable of 32-bit addressing, so 32 bits that can be used as address, well, we're talking about 3 gigabit worth of, or gigabit or gigabyte, 3, wrong. We're talking about 4 gigabytes worth of address space, right? So in that 4 gigabyte, our memory was only, let's say, 1 KB right now. And we can just address all the cells within that using 1024 addresses. What about the rest? Well, we can use it for other things. We can have a subsystem for, let's say, I2C, one of the communication protocols, one of the communication ICs. So for an I2C controller, we can say, hey, the I2C controller lives on 2 KB through 3 KB. We can just waste, it might, we can waste the space in between. The 1 KB through 2 KB, we can say that's a whole. Doesn't matter. So the idea then is, I hope I'm able to convey this, which is an interconnect where all the subsystems connect through buses, and each one of them gets an address range. And that address range if the CPU or the processing element emits an address, conveys an address which belongs to a certain subsystem, the interconnect will do the coordination. That's where I mentioned that the interconnect is like a highway, it's a road network, or it's a rail network, wherein given the destination, the address, the rail network or the road network, guides you to get to that location, so to speak. So hopefully I've conveyed what system on chip here relies on. It relies on this, or it is built on this concept of interconnects and memory mapped IO, and the fact that different subsystems can connect to the interconnect or the fabric and have different addresses, an address range dedicated to them. Now this concept of address range and subsystems, it'll start to make sense once we again dive into look at the documentation. So let me then go ahead and see if I can show you some documentation. How do I do that? I have tough time. Okay, yeah, let's just do this. So in this documentation now, we mentioned that all the gray boxes here are, roughly speaking, the subsystems. Then they connect to each other over the interconnect. Now this is part of the schematic, what you see on the screen right now. Let's not get into that just yet. I'm wanting to see if there is somewhere the data sheet, because, and this is also where we can touch upon how to read data sheet, the core, the key idea behind how to go and read a data sheet, what to look for. Okay, so it says for board files, 3D model, and more, check out this repository. I'll just jump on that repository. It's loading. I think it loaded. Success. Nice. Okay, so it's loading. This is openbeagle.org/beagley-ai/beagley-ai. So let's just give it a moment to load. This happens to be a GitLab repository, if I'm not wrong. See, it says open hardware computers for makers, educators, and professionals. That's why I like them. And Creative Commons 4.0 license. Let me just reload this. So what I'm after right now, what I'm wanting to show you is the the detailed documentation, the data sheet, and in the data sheet, highlight this notion of memory mapped IO. So let's see, design files, Gerber files, block diagram. You can take a look at all of these, mechanical drawings, bill of material, all of that good stuff, assembly. Okay, these are design files. I'm just wondering if at some point I have okay, let's go back. Let's just do this live. Let's see. Okay, design and specification, then I go back. Quick introduction. Okay, introduction. This is the board. Yeah, this is like a complete list of what all this SoC has. Okay, I see a clickable link. AM67A SoC. There has to be a yes. So it says, hey, for more information about this, check out ti.com/product/AM67A. So let me click this. Perfect. So I'm now on TI's website. Again, this is that diagram of the SoC. I'm looking for the processor's data sheet. Now they should have called it, maybe it's the user guide or this. Let me open both. So new tab for the user guide. Okay. And okay, let me open up the PD. Okay. Reload. Okay. Right. So I have this, okay, directory. Well, downloaded a zip. I opened the zip, it had these two. So I'm just going to go ahead and open this. Now turns out, okay, so AM67, right? So this is the data sheet for that technical reference manual. And what I want to show you is this memory map. So if we go to the memory map, it's effectively where all what part of the SoC is mapped, right? So let's look for something familiar. So let's look for, I don't know, maybe, okay, UART. So there are many UARTs on this SoC, and you can see UART 0 is start address is this, end address is this, this entire range is 512 bytes, and so on and so forth. So PCIe, for example, gets its own address range. The idea being, if our CPU, if our code is trying to reach out to this address, well, it will reach within, PCI 0 core user config or something like that. Now the details are more nuanced, and that's where this document comes in. At some point, it will talk about, let's say, processors and accelerators. So it's talking about, see, the A53 subsystem. What does that mean? So A53 subsystem is effectively, let me just quickly show you. Hopefully you're not bored by now. If you are, apologies. If we go to documentation, we go to quick start. No, maybe wrong, sorry. Design and specification, very nice. So this is the application course. So this is the the A53 subsystem. Where is that? Where is that? It's the ARM Cortex A53 subsystem. It's called A53SS. SS is subsystem. And then it goes on to, explaining or talking about that, what it can do, what it cannot do, how to program it, different like, bandwidth, bus width. See, bus width is 256, like 256 wires is going to this CPU subsystem, the A53 subsystem. Anyway, so it lists out, a lot of stuff. And this entire document, for example, it also talks about GPU. So how to program GPU? Well, look up the GPU subsystem. And where is that? Where does it start? Must say GPU. Okay, GPU. Oh, it says it starts here. Oh, okay, there goes. So graphics accelerator, so GPU, and at some point it will talk about how to talk to it. So if you are writing, yeah, there goes. So it describes what all features are available, how do you talk to the GPU, all of that. And there is interconnect that it connects to. And again, how do you talk to a subsystem? Using addresses. And how do you figure out which addresses belong or which subsystem lives within which address range? Well, the technical reference manual or the data sheet, and within that you look for memory map. All right, so with that, let me just stop here because it's almost an overkill. So let me just stop here. Hopefully you understood that interconnects and different subsystems connect to it, and they each have an address or address range, and reading and writing to that address range enables us to talk to that subsystem. All right, so with this, let me catch you in the next one.